Welcome, everyone. Another episode of Back and Forth with Becker and Orr. You can see Kevin's not in the office today. He's at the cabin, but still tuning in for another episode of all the topics at the bottom. It's going to be a fun show. You want to stick around.
Yes, they let me out from the office for a little bit. I'm sitting at the lake at the moment. Hopefully, I will be able to enjoy some more warm weather like we're having right now. But let's get to the back and forth scenario, as it were. I am probably going to be not syncing the same way with my voice, but let's go. Clint, let's start with Axie. What are we talking about?
Axie, absolutely. Now that, for many folks, might not know what it is. It's an online gaming platform. They're built on the Ethereum blockchain, so we're going into the crypto space here. I don't want to get too much into the details of how the game operates, but more some of the broader strokes. So they use NFTs, non-fungible tokens. If you're not familiar with those, you can check out one of our videos we did specifically on NFTs. And what happens is players come into the game, they exchange and buy, trade these different NFTs. I'll pull up a snapshot so you can see what they look like. It's a strategy game. It's a player versus player type of game. It's exploded in popularity. The parts of the world we've seen the biggest traction, if you will, is Vietnam. It's in the Philippines. Part of the reason why you get paid to play this game. So you can earn an income by playing this game. You get paid in cryptocurrency. Works out to about $20 US a day. So if someone was making, say, $5 or $10 US a day, now they can up that to $20 US a day. Makes some sense. But what I'm getting at here is this is a practical reason for people to dive into the crypto space. They get paid in cryptocurrency. They have to learn about NFTs. It's no longer just a storyline or a get-rich-quick scheme. It's an actual practical reason for people to adopt cryptocurrency. I think that's something to be a little excited about.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that that's definitely something to take a look at. You're right. I mean, now all of a sudden there's a practical purpose we've never had beforehand. Beforehand, you collected NFTs. You just wanted to hold on to them. Maybe you sold them later like art or something along those lines. But as opposed to the lower numbers that you can earn in the wage, if you're going to play a game and be able to make money off it, I think this is a perfect scenario to start going. Now, we've seen it in Asia, but $20 to get people to change, but it's definitely heading in the right stream. So, yeah, I think this is an excellent idea to take a look at. What are we talking about next, Clint?
Yeah, well, of course, the big events as we reopened the economy in the U.S. and New York, they had Foo Fighters in the Madison Square Garden. Here in Manitoba, I have to think the next big event is going to be the Bomber home opener, the first home game of the season, first game since they won the Grey Cup, and probably the first big event Manitoba has seen since the pandemic. I'm excited. Going to be at full capacity. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is an excellent scenario. I can't wait to get to the Bomber game. I've been dying for this for a year and a half now just to get something open to go to. The big crowds and people that are going to be a little shy about the game starts to move somewhere into the middle of the first or second quarter. So, and again, for us, this is a full capacity sort of 34,000 people. I noticed that Montreal just allowed it to open at 15 when their season starts. So, hey, it looks like we're starting to get back to normal in some format. But, yeah, we'll see how the fully vaccinated people do and whether or not they continue going this way forward. That being said, now that I've moved from the Bombers, what about bonds?
Yeah, bonds and inflation. We've talked about inflation a couple of times in the past, and it continues to be a topic of discussion. The chart I'm pulling up here is from Michael Batnick, and he looked at, for the U.S., the U.S. 10-year Treasury rate, which is an idea of the interest rate on bonds, and he compared it to inflation. You can see normally when inflation goes up, interest rates go up. The two kind of are linked in that sense. But you have the red dot there, Kevin. That red dot shows that right now in the U.S., inflation over 5%, yields under 2%. So we're in a weird spot here where rates are low, but inflation is high. What's your take? What's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, this is something we've almost never seen before where you've got, traditionally every time inflation goes up, the way you counteract that is you raise interest rates. You try to take money out of the system so that there's not too much going after it. But I think what we're seeing here is transitory. That's the big thing. We're waiting for everything to come back online, supply chains, the whole 9 yards. So you're getting transitory inflation. That's why the governments do not want to raise their interest rates at this point in time. They're saying that this 5% isn't going to last. We'll get back to the 2, maybe close to 2.5 or 3. That'll be more in line with what they're doing. So once that happens, I think that we'll start to see that rates are going to maintain themselves as low for a while. If that doesn't happen in the next little while, though, you will see interest rates move. It can't stay that way forever.
Yeah, that's certainly part of it. I think there's a transitory factor there. I think another factor is just the amount of the bond market now that's no longer in private hands, but somehow tied to the government, somehow tied to central banks. They've stepped in a pretty big way. There have been studies done recently. Alison Schroeder did one that looked at the U.S. bond market, saying that almost half of it now is somehow tied to the government or the Federal Reserve, and they're not rate-sensitive buyers. They just buy because they want to stimulate the economy. Whether they get 2%, 10%, they're not demanding higher rates, even if there's higher inflation. So you have the two factors there. Transitory part of it, like you mentioned, then I think the government intervention, all the stimulus, probably going to hold rates lower for longer as well. We're moving on to the Delta variant, how that could impact the economy, how it can impact the reopening. Now, what are your thoughts there when it comes to the Delta variant?
Yeah, I mean, the Delta variant's been a big factor recently. I mean, all of a sudden you had things clearing up and the UK was opening, Europe's opening, the US definitely was opening. But as we saw, without having enough vaccinated people, this Delta variant, which is a high spreading rate compared to what the original strain of coronavirus was, is really starting to affect a lot of people. So you're looking at places that are putting more restrictions back on and possibly not having that reopening scenario they want. So I think this is going to play into the market. You're getting that fear. So, I mean, last week on the Monday, we had a large drop. You're finding in China, there's things going on, but also with more restrictions being placed out there, it makes it harder to define as to whether the fourth wave is actually hitting us now. Are we going to get it, or can we get enough people vaccinated to go without it? What do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It'll be tough. I think it'll vary depending on the country and their own vaccination rates and how quickly they reopen or they don't, but it's certainly going to be a factor. I think if you rewind back to end of last year, early this year, the idea was we'd just throw the doors open, everyone would be rushing back, the economy would be fully open, and now we're seeing that's probably not going to be the case. It's going to be a little slower. It might not be quite the boom we think it's going to be, and that's going to weigh on the market in one way or another. It's going to change sentiment for sure, or it could change sentiment, and it could factor into how people evaluate future earnings. So yes, it's going to be a factor. We just don't know right now how big of a factor it's going to be. So that's really the issue. We're waiting to see the significance it'll have when it comes to the markets. That's right. Question of the week. And we're on the same topic here, Kevin. We just mentioned the Delta variant, talked about reopening. So I'm going to throw this to you. When will Manitoba fully reopen? If you had a guess, when do you think it'll be?
Tomorrow. Actually, no, I would not go that far. I mean, based on what we're seeing, I mean, that's what my hope is. I'd open tomorrow. But no, theoretically, they're looking for that 80% first, 75% second vaccine rate. And the way that the Manitoba scenario has been going right now, we're around 79% and about 68%. So we are closing in. And if we get that early, I still have a feeling the government's going to wait till that September timeframe. I think they want to see how this is going to play out. We have not been getting a whole bunch more in the way of cases since we've opened on the second level right now in the stages that we're dealing with. So I am assuming that, yes, we will be fully opening by September, but I don't know whether it'll go beforehand. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd be in the same boat. I don't think it'll be beforehand. I think even if we hit those targets, the stated vaccine target, which was the 80 for the first shot and 75 for the second shot, even if we hit those early, I don't think they'll fully open until September. I think they're going to wait to see how the cases play out and then maybe soften restrictions and do a larger reopening with that September long weekend. So I think we're probably as open as we're going to get for most of the summer, and likely it'll be in the fall before we see a larger reopening. That's my takeaway anyway.
Yeah, I'd be in the same boat. But if they allow us to go to Bomber games at full capacity, we have no problems. At least I can gather there. So I've got one coming up in early August, another one in late August. I'm good to go.
There we go. A couple of home games. Home games. And if you do have more questions, we covered a couple of topics here. You can always get us at chatwithclintonandkevin.com. Happy to help out any way we can. Any parting comments for the folks, Kevin, as you're there at the cottage in the sunshine?
I wish you were all here and that you could enjoy the day the way I'm going to do it. So other than that, no, I'm done. I'll be back in the office for the next time we're recording, and we'll go from there. Thanks a lot.
Sounds good. Everyone stay safe.